You ever read something that just confirms what you already knew in your gut? That's exactly how I felt reading Variety's piece about theater execs warning that traditional moviegoing might disappear in 20 years. And honestly, that headline could have dropped 10 years ago and still hit the same. Because this isn't about prediction, it's about reframing a reality they've helped create. Theaters didn't just fall out of favor. They've been pushing regular moviegoers out by turning what was once a casual, communal pastime into a premium price, friction-filled ordeal. Think about it. It used to be a spontaneous decision. You grab a friend, roll up to the theater, buy a ticket for $10, and enjoy the show. Now, it feels like a chore. It's pricey, it's over-engineered, and if you're not careful, you'll shell out $30 just to watch ads in a luxury recliner next to someone texting under the glow of Dolby certified lighting. Let's start with the ticket prices, because that's the first red flag most people run into. In a lot of places, you're looking at $18 to $24 just to sit down. That's before snacks, before parking, and sometimes before you've even chosen the format. And when I say format, I mean, how much louder and shinier do you want your overpriced experience to be? Premium formats like IMAX, Dolby Atmos, and 4DX used to feel like something special. A once-in-a-while splurge for your biggest blockbusters. Now they've become the default. Not because people demanded it, but because theaters push them. The upsell has become the expectation. Try finding a normal 2D screening of a new release on opening weekend. You'll have better luck discovering a new element. And let's be honest, not every movie benefits from these upgrades. A lot of them are just stuffed into these formats so the theater can squeeze out the extra $5 per person. The marketing tells you it's about immersion. The reality? It's about margin. And that brings us to seating. Ah yes, the recliner revolution. Now look, I like comfort as much as the next person, but have you noticed that theaters are cutting their seating capacity in half or more? A room that used to hold 250 people now fits maybe 70. And guess what? When you cut seats, you hike up the price to maintain revenue. That quote-unquote luxury is just scarcity dressed up in pleather. We traded spontaneity for spacing, and sure, it's comfier, but it also means if you don't book ahead, you're sitting in the front row like you're in a chiropractor's waiting room. And that's if you even get a seat thanks to assigned seating. Once upon a time, you could just show up, buy a ticket, and snag the best seat available based on how early you arrived. That had its own energy. The buzz of a packed house, the luck of the draw. Now, everything feels clinical. You pick a seat on your phone days in advance, and every screening feels like boarding an airplane. Gone is the spontaneity. Gone is the community buzz. Now it's a spreadsheet of chairs and a cold confirmation email. But hey, you got to recline, right? And just when you think the value proposition couldn't get any worse, AMC decides to double down on ads. That's right. Starting this summer, AMC theaters will begin showing even more commercials before the movie starts, thanks to a new deal with National Cinemedia. They're calling it the quote-unquote platinum spot, which sounds fancy, until you realize it just means more ads shoved right before the feature presentation. Let's be real, who's paying $18 to $24 a ticket to sit through a barrage of commercials? If I'm paying a premium price, I expect a premium experience, and no, that's not entitlement. That's basic consumer logic. You wouldn't pay for a 5-star meal and expect to sit through a timeshare pitch before dessert. And this isn't just about patience, it's about value. Movie tickets now rival the cost of just buying the film outright on Blu-ray or digital. And when you factor in the time commitment, trailers, ads, runtime, you're looking at a 3-hour investment for a movie you might not even like. So what's the industry's solution to all this? Subscriptions! AMC Stubs A-List, Regal Unlimited, Cinemark Movie Club, every major chain has a monthly pass. And on paper, it sounds like a fix. You pay a flat fee, you see multiple movies a month, and suddenly the ticket price problem is gone. But here's the thing. The experience still hasn't changed. You're still sitting through the same wall of ads, you're still locked into assigned seating, you're still navigating a system that feels more like booking a flight than going to the movies. And maybe this is just me showing my age, but I'm not even 30 yet. And I already feel like an old man for remembering when you could just walk up to the box office, buy a ticket, pick a seat, and enjoy the show. Yeah, there were trailers. Yeah, there were a couple ads, but it didn't feel like you were being nickeled and dimed at every turn. Now, to be fair, assigned seating does have its place. I remember going to the midnight IMAX 3D screening for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 all the way back in 2011. I showed up 8 or 9 hours early just to get a good seat. I actually met a couple in line that had been waiting for 13 hours. It was chaos, but it was also kind of magical in a weird way. So yeah, for advanced screenings, assigned seating makes sense. It keeps the lobby from turning into a human traffic jam, but for your average Tuesday night showing of a rom-com, it just adds another layer of friction to something that used to be very simple. Now here's where it gets really ironic. Even if you jump through all the hoops, pay the premium price, book the seat, show up early, you still have to sit through what feels like 20 minutes of ads before the trailers even roll. It's getting harder and harder to argue that the movie-going experience is worth the cost. And that's before we even talk about the movies themselves. Because here's the sad truth. A lot of what's being made right now just isn't worth the gamble. Modern blockbusters are assembled on conveyor belts. They're not directed, they're managed, executive produced into blandness, made to hit as many demographics as possible without alienating anyone, and in doing so, they resonate with no one. Take the Marvel Cinematic Universe. These movies aren't made by directors anymore. They're made by committees. They're stitched together to support the next 4 sequels, the spin-off Disney Plus show, and the inevitable crossover event in 2028. The result? Every film starts to feel like a mandatory episode in a never-ending content treadmill. Remember Blade from 1998? Wesley Snipes, gritty, bloody, stylish. That movie cost $45 million and built a cult following on the strength of its personality. The upcoming MCU Blade reboot? It's reportedly ballooning in budget and constantly being reworked because it has to fit into the larger universe, appeal to international markets, and play nice with PG-13 guidelines. In other words, it can't afford to be cool. And it's not just Marvel. Universal spent a truckload of money on Jurassic World Rebirth, and it's already drawing mixed reactions. People saying it looks great, sure, but also saying it feels like another soulless sequel. And then there's Fast X, which for the record, I enjoyed. But even that made over $700 million and was still called a failure. Not because audiences didn't show up, but because the bar was set so high financially that quote-unquote success wasn't enough. That's the game now. The bigger the budget, the safer the story. Studios can't take risks because they have to make back an obscene amount of money just to break even. And once again, it's the audience that pays the price, both literally and figuratively. Even indie films, our last bastion of originality, aren't immune. A movie like The Bike Riders or something from A24 or Neon might be weirder, more personal, more willing to get under your skin, but you're still paying the same inflated ticket price to see it. There's no discount for daring. You're spending $20 either way. And for a lot of people, that means choosing the sure thing. That's not on the audience. That's on the system. And this is where we circle back to Elio. Pixar's latest original film just had the worst opening weekend in the studio's history. $21 million domestic, $35 million worldwide. And while the film itself has been praised by critics and audiences alike, it still got steamrolled at the box office by How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch, 2 live-action remakes of movies people already know by heart. And honestly, I don't blame the audience. Because when ticket prices are this high, when you're paying $18 and $24 just to get in the door, before snacks, before ads, before the movie even starts, you're not just buying a ticket, you're making a bet. And Elio? That's a risk. It's not part of a franchise. It's not a sequel. It's not a remake. It's a brand new story with no built-in nostalgia, no guaranteed payoff, and in this climate, that's a tough sell. Meanwhile, How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch offer something safer. You've seen the originals. You know the beats. You know what you're getting. And when the cost of a single movie rivals the price of owning it on Blu-ray, people are going to choose familiarity over curiosity. This isn't about audiences being lazy, it's about audiences being rational. Studios have created an environment where the cost of entry is so high that people are afraid to take chances, and then they act surprised when original films underperform. But this isn't a mystery, it's math. And maybe that's the saddest part of all. Because I remember when going to the movies didn't feel like a transaction. It felt like a ritual. You'd walk up to the box office, hand over a 10, grab your ticket, and just go. No apps, no seat maps, no platinum tier ad packages, just you, the screen, and a room full of strangers all there for the same reason. Now, it's all pre-booked, pre-priced, pre-processed. You're not just watching a movie, you're navigating a system. And even when you try to play along, sign up for the subscription, pick your seat, show up early, you're still stuck watching ads for soda and car insurance before the trailers even roll. It's wild that I'm not even 30 and I already feel like I'm talking about the quote-unquote good old days. Well, you know, Sonny, back in my day, when kids played stickball, I was walking to school barefoot both ways uphill in the snow. And it was never downhill. No, Sonny. Downhill never existed back in my day. But that's where we are. And if this is the future of moviegoing, then we need to ask, who is it really for? Because if it's not for the people who made moviegoing what it is, if it's not for the fans, the casuals, the curious, the broke teenagers, the midnight diehards, then maybe it's not worth saving in its current form. Maybe it's time to stop blaming audiences for walking away and start asking why theaters gave them so many reasons to. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think movie theaters can still be saved, or have they priced themselves out of relevance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one, and I want to know how your experience lines up with mine. And if you made it all the way to the end, comment the code word recliner rant. That way I know you stayed for the full ride, and honestly, you deserve a theater with 0 ads and unlimited refills just for that. And if you want to go even deeper into this topic, click on the video on screen now where I break down why How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch crushed Elio at the box office, and what that says about how price and nostalgia are rewriting the rules of theatrical success.